let's start this conversation by looking at the recent step taken by the Central Bank of Nigeria as regards addressing the issue of liquidity in the FX market. The central bank, in its wisdom, decided to ban fintechs and banks from international money transfer. Do you consider this step to be the right step taken at the right time?
Before I answer that question, we need to look back in time and, understand the genesis of what is actually happening in the Nigerian economy today. Three factors are actually, causing this Forex problem that we are having in Nigeria today. Number one is that our major source of foreign exchange has been the crude oil. And we know what has been happening to the crude oil market in the country, lately. The bunkering and, stealing of our crude oil to the point that there was a time we could not even generate up to 1 million barrels per day. So that has reduced drastically, the Forex inflow into the country. Then the second problem is the issue of our demand. In this part of the world, we tend to demand more for imported things than what we are manufacturing. So we are import dependent to the point where I can categorically say that more than 90% of what we are consuming in the country are imported. And, that is putting a serious pressure on the Forex. So you can see on one side, the inflow has reduced because we are no more, producing the crude oil as much as we are producing before, and the little we are producing are being stolen. So it has reduced the inflow. Then the outflow has increased. What we are demanding for you in the near and the recent past, you can see that most of the things that were not in the market before has been introduced to the market now that increase the outflow, the demand for imported things. A good example is the Japa syndrome. Everybody wants to go and, get out of this country, some through education that they have to pay school fees, some just, and, in moving, that's putting serious pressure on the Forex in Nigeria. Then the third issue is the last central bank we have in Nigeria in terms of Godwin Emefiele. The man did a lot of wickedness for this country when he was, and it is still his wickedness that is still creating the problem up to today. So if we understand this genesis of the problem, then we understand where we are coming from, where we are, and where we are going to from where we are. So when you see what the call dispensation, the governor of central bank is trying to do, is actually to clean up all the mess that has been on ground before now. And I think they are actually doing the best they can for this time period. But whether what they are doing is enough or not is another discussion.
All right, Dr. Ajuwon, good to see you in the new year. Not so new anymore, but Happy New Year to you. It's the first time we'll have a new early exchange for 2024.
Yes.
Okay. So what's your take on CBN in its efforts to control Forex liquidity and also to control the depreciation of the Naira against the dollar, stopping outbound transfers of money from Nigeria and allowing the IMTOs for only inbound transfers? Do you see that as a policy that's going to have effect on maybe some businesses and ability to make some transactions?
If you look at what is on ground recently, you will see that when the current CBN governor met like 7.7, let me say around 7 billion debt that we need to, clean up. And definitely on daily basis, we are still demanding for foreign exchange. So it's increasing, and you have to first clear what is on ground before you can move forward. And you can see what they have done in the last 2-3 months that I came in. They've cleared more than 2 billion debt. Then, you know, they asked for auditing of all these Forex and discovered that 2.4 billion of the debt does not have a legitimate claim. So you see, by the time you remove the 2.2, they pay the 2.4 that, you know, cannot, you will see what they have left is around, I think around 2-point-something billion is what they have left to clear. And we can see what they have done. You know, they've gone to Mex Bank to collect 3-point-something billion as they are approaching World Bank to collect another like $1.5 billion. So that at the end of the day, they'll be able to clear, you know, the grant, and, you know, we'll have a leverage grant with which to move. And, you know, ways of going about it is to ensure that let the Forex market be a pure demand and supply analysis. So banks can go ahead and trade for foreign exchange at any price they believe is what you know, it can make business for them. So I think, you know, by the theory of economics, this is the right direction to follow.
All right, Dr. Ajuwon, what do you make of this development where the central bank decided to increase the application fee for IMTO licenses from 500,000 naira to 10 billion naira? What do you make of this development? Do you think this is sustainable or is coming at the right time?
You see, it's a way of forcing, well, people might not like it that way, but it's a way of forcing currency into this country, because definitely by the time you expand that, then people that want to do business say we have to bring in money. And, you know, in bringing in money, you know, from where it was to where it is now, definitely it's going to, you know, anybody that knows it can make it will be the people, you know, that will come in. And, you know, it will bring a lot of money. And at the same time, it will reduce the pressure of so many people applying, you know, to want to, trade in this market. So this is, a policy in the right direction.
So who are those, in your view, who will regularly make use of the IMTOs? Who are those who would need the services of the IMTOs? I'm not talking about those in diaspora that need to send some money to their relatives in Nigeria, but from Nigeria, who are those that you think normally need the services of these IMTOs? Let's start from there.
You know, that's what I'm saying. Why do you need it in the first instance? I said it, you know, when you look at, because what is happening is purely forces of demand and supply. Once demand is more than supply, price is bound to go up. You see, most of the people that need Forex, they need to start looking inward, because most of the things that we are demanding Forex for, it's something that we can source locally. So if you know you can source it locally, why must you be sourcing them from outside the market? So this will force so many people to start rethinking and looking for, you know, inward way of sourcing, you know, for what they need, that they don't have to start, you know, looking outside. It is, you know, although it has its negative effects in that some companies definitely, you know, need this thing, that there is no, but I don't believe that there is no alternative. I believe in all things and in everything, there is always alternative. So people will have to think deeply to make sure that, you know, they think outside the box to get alternative. We can't continue to be under pressure of Forex and think that all is well. You know, it is not government that is generating dollars. We don't have ability, to manufacture any foreign country currency. So definitely, we have to reduce the pressure on the dollar. We have to reduce the pressure.
All right.
Like I said, on the naira rather.
Okay, great. Dr. Ajuwon, as you're aware that the major source of forex for Nigeria is sales of crude oil, which in recent times, has declined when it comes to production. Even when it comes to meeting our OPEC quota, we've not been able to do that. Nigeria is struggling with that. Now, what should be the narrative now that you have Port Harcourt refinery coming on board? You have that of Dangote. Will that be a plus or minus? And what should be done to ensure that sales of crude oil improve so that the effects that you have in the system or the liquidity will improve in a matter of months?
Actually, when it comes to the crude oil, because that's what is actually creating the major pressure that we are having on the naira, the demand, what's it called? And I want to add a caveat there, because you see, there is a problem that is brewing that the policy makers are not paying attention to. When you look at our filling stations today, you will see that we have started having scarcity of fuel at the filling station. And we need to go and check, is there any reduction in the demand for the refined oil coming into the country? If not, then the caveat I want to add is this, that the policy makers are not looking at. The way the naira has so much dropped now, it has made our fuel so cheap for all the neighboring countries now to be demanding for it. So our tankers, we just be finding ways of taking our fuel that the government is subsidizing, which is the problem at the onset that they came to solve. Now taking it outside the country now and make more money, and those countries will be enjoying it. So it's like a leech, sucking Nigeria dry. So if the policy makers don't look at that and ensure that our refined petrol and all those things are not leaving the shore of this country, Nigeria will just be suffering, while the neighboring countries will now be enjoying what, sucking us dry. That's the right word there.
All right, talking about something sucking the resources of Nigeria dry.
They are cooperating in that area, in that they are looking at ways of cutting off all the sabotage, all those that has been siphoning our oil, illegally. They have declared a thorough war on them, and I think the war has started yielding positive results. And also, all our investors in the crude oil market, the foreigners specifically, they are no more happy, impressed, in bringing any investment into Nigeria in that regard. And that's also what the world is looking towards, because the world has started, looking beyond crude oil into other forms of energy sources. So it will be wrong to say anybody will be coming into the country now, to come and invest in crude oil when the world is already looking beyond it. So that is also creating a serious problem on that side for us, because believe me sincerely, for now, Nigeria cannot be thinking beyond crude oil. That is for now. We can't be thinking beyond crude oil. But as it is now, the way the world is moving, it's cutting us on our way, to take us to the next level when we are not yet ready for it.
All right, in a bid to move towards the next level, which will be to find some relief for the naira against the dollar. Now, the CBN has revealed that it uncovered on invalid foreign overdue claims totaling $2.4 billion, which they say have pressured the naira for long and spooked the currency market. What's your take on this discovery?
In my introduction, I've already, spoken about it. I said that those are part of the evils that the last CBN governor had dug, some graves the last CBN have dug for this country. And, thank God they are able to identify that $2.4 billion. And we will see what will happen, in the course of time. I thank God when the CBN governor was speaking yesterday, he said that, those 2.4 billion naira, they have contacted the people to let them know that this money will not be paid. And so far, there has not been any, negative, what's it called, from there. But that does not mean that there might not be any issues from there. They might just, be looking at how to, what's it called, put their legal documents together. So I would say for now, so far, so good. But we know this is Nigeria. We know the way things roll. And I hope at the end of the day, we will not have any issues with those 2.4 billion. But those are the evils, those are the graves, those are the wickedness that the former CBN governor and those in the position of authority in CBN led for Nigeria to grapple with.
All right, talking about the CBN, the central bank governor last week issued a directive to NNPC, on behalf of the federal government, for NNPC to transfer its revenue to the Central Bank of Nigeria when it comes to Forex inflow and the revenue being generated. Do you think this will make any impact on the issue of liquidity in the market?
Yes, definitely that will help the liquidity in the market. But going beyond CBN, now taking over the Forex of the NNPC, I think we are just decorating evil in this country, because I see no reason why we could not audit the NNPC accounts the way they have done for CBN. Until we do that, I think we are just decorating evil in this country. It goes beyond just saying that let the Forex be passing through CBN. I think we need to do forensic auditing of NNPC accounts.
Sure. Now, the stopping of outbound transfer for international money transfers. Now, do you think it's going to have any effect on maybe small and medium enterprises, people who would do imports at some levels and will need to make some transfer? Is this going to be a challenge for them?
Like I said, the period we are now is a very, very rough period. And, it's something that I pray to be able to wither it successfully. And definitely, the situation of things now will definitely affect not only the small scale businesses, but the whole economy. Because when you look at, but definitely I can say that it will increase the flow of exchange. Once you are able to pay the price, yes, go ahead, because it is better you suck your Forex through the bank than through the black market. Because after sucking it through the black market, you still need, to transfer using the financial institutions. But if you are collecting your money through the black market, then it's a little bit difficult or not straightforward. In fact, it's difficult, not just straightforward of, transferring the finance through the financial market. So with this now, it makes it open now. Everybody can make their transfer through the financial market. The problem is that the price is very, very high now.
What is playing out in the parallel market, where that Nigerians, that's where they depend on when it comes to accessing this Forex. We had a situation last week where the BDS operators in Abuja had to shut down due to scarcity of Forex. Now, how serious is this, and what will be the impact of these on the common man who needs to access this Forex? And what do you think the central bank can do to help, elevate this crisis?
And when you look at what happened in Abuja, the BDX closing shop, it's a funny what's it called. And when you look at it, and the idea they gave that the Forex was scarce and all those things. You see, the BDA, the BDC or whatever they are called, it's supposed to be, they are not supposed to be the major source of Forex in the country. So, but when you look at the number of BDAs in the country, you will see that they have now turned to be the major source of Forex in the country. So nobody is going to ask them to close shop. By the time the bank is doing the work that they are supposed to do, which is the appropriate thing, majority of them will close shop. So that one is not an issue that we need to be discussing. The issue is, please liberalize the money. Let everybody be able to buy their dollar and sell their dollar at any price everybody wants to buy it. If you cannot afford it, nobody is forcing you. If you can afford it, go ahead and buy it. If you cannot afford it, then you leave the market. It's as simple as ABC. So that's the way it is. The issue of Forex is it's supposed to be scarce. They are not supposed to be major source of what's it called? If not for the aberration that the last CBN management did and licensing so many BDX, it's an aberration. So that is not even an issue. Let anybody that needs Forex approach anywhere they can access the Forex and get it at the ruling price in the market.
Well, Dr. Ajuwon, it might not be as easy as you imply, because you're painting the ideal versus the reality. The reality is what plays out in the parallel market. How is it for the proposition that you're putting on the table now? Because these people, they form part of everyday transactions. And the reason why they're being patronized is because of the easy access to Forex in the parallel market. Don't you think it's high time the CBN governor or the CBN as a body should come out with a framework of assisting them with the availability of Forex?
Instead of doing that, I would say that the CBN should make financial institutions, especially our commercial banks, to be able to trade, with this Forex easily. Because, BDX is still BDX. They are not financial, they are not formal financial institutions. So if, for instance, I source my money from BDX now, and I need to make transaction abroad, can the BDX pay for me? I will still have to come back to I will still have to come back to the bank. So which means I will still pay the bank to do it and all those. That's a double cost. So why not bank? It is a function of the bank to do all these things, not the BDX. So please, I think we are not supposed to be discussing the BDX. What we are supposed to be discussing is, why are banks not able to do this function properly? If there are so many measures the CBN had put in place that is not making the commercial banks to perform their function, the central bank needs to start looking at those areas, clean those places up, because that's the way to go, not to be talking about BDS is the right. How many BDS are around? Which one is closer to us? Is it the commercial banks or the BDX? Can the BDX help you to buy things abroad? Or carry the transaction beyond buying and selling of the currency with them? They can't do more than that.
Let's look at what I often call the dollarization of the Nigeria economy. It's a trend which several governmental administrations have been battling with over the years. It's rather becoming a reality we have to live with, isn't it?
Yes. In fact, when I was thinking about the situation of things overnight, I was like, I think it's high time we start thinking of the denomination of Naira, because we have gotten to a situation where, if you are not thinking about the denomination of Naira now, we might be creating a serious problem for us way forward. Because now dollar is like 1,500 Naira, which is, far more than what anybody could have imagined, by this time last year. but that's the way it is now. So I think the CBN needs to start thinking of redenomination of Naira, maybe by 1 digit or 2 digits, which means if it is by 1 digit, instead of Naira being 1,500, it will be 150. And if it is by 2 digits, instead of it being 1,500, it will now be 150 Naira. So I think at this level, the CBN should start looking at the idea of redenominating Naira as a way out of the problem, we have currently now.
Is it about what figure the money bears or the value of purchase? Now, if the CBN redenominates the Naira, and as you've given an example, for instance, the Naira trading at about 1,500 Naira to the dollar becomes 150 Naira. What is the purchasing power of 150 Naira? Shouldn't that be what the value of the Naira is about, as compared to what figure you see written in it?
You see, when we are talking about redenomination of Naira, it's there are some problems it's going to solve. And number one is that if we don't do that, the rate at which people are asking for salary increments, government will just be spending so much money printing Naira. Because imagine, now what we were buying for 400 Naira before is now like 1,500 Naira. So, which is like more than times 3, almost like times 4. So if care is not taken, the demand for Naira will be far, far higher. And, which means government will have to spend more money printing currency. But with the redenomination, it is going to sort of, reduce the quantity of money that the government will have, that the central bank will have to be printing. That's the number one. Then the number two, I told you that, there is a problem with what is happening now that the policymakers might not be thinking about. And that is things in this country now is now so, the Naira is now so devalued that around all the countries around us will just be sucking on us. And what we are supposed to enjoy, it is now all the countries around us that will now be benefiting. They will just be sucking us dry, while we Nigerians will just, be at the receiving end. But by the time, Naira is redenominated, it brings everybody to par, because definitely salary is going to increase the way forward. We cannot continue the way we are going. And not only that, those that have been hiding the dollars, they are hiding it because they believe that, now they are happy. Naira is now 1,500 Naira, so they are expecting it to even climb. By the time they redenominate Naira and they realize that, okay, instead of it 1,500 is now 150 Naira now, they will realize that does it worth it? So that might enable, the people that have been stocking dollars to actually, bring it out and stop that idea.
All right, Dr. Ajuwon, are you aware that the CBN has outrightly said that the body is not going to redenominate the Naira as far as the year 2024 is concerned? Why do you think, even though some experts have argued that it won't make any impact, it will just affect the nominal value of the Naira, but why do you think the CBN has taken this strong position of not redenominating the Naira? And what should be the narrative if that's not the option for the CBN? What should be done instead to manage this crisis?
Like I said, if anybody knows me well, as far back as was it not 2011 or when was Professor Soludo was the governor of Central Bank and wanted to redenominate Naira, I was part of the people that came out and said then that it doesn't worth it, for us to consider Naira redenomination. And I am the one saying now, when you look at the situation of things, that I think the CBN needs to start looking at that idea of redenominating Naira. You see, when the level of inflation is something that is not that high, the way it was then, the Naira denomination doesn't worth it, because there are some problems that is associated with Naira denomination. And, it might spike inflation that you think is the problem. It might spike it. But when you look at the present dispensation, then it is in a level that I think it would be ideal to start thinking of Naira redenomination. Because imagine when Naira is going, when $1 is going for 1,500 Naira, and I can assure you that we've not gotten to the limit. So to take appropriate policies or measures, that we address that issues, I think we should allow everything to be on the table, and which means the central bank should be looking at the issue of Naira denomination. I am saying it as an expert, and before the CBN can go into say they want to do that, they need to look at what will be the effect of it on the economy. But I think at this level where the central bank should start looking at that idea of redenomination of the Naira.
Okay, now let's look back at some of the issues discussed here. Now, we talked about the banks, which should be the ideal channel for Forex, but we have the BDCs that assumed the role of playing a complementary role, and over time they now became the major channel for Forex. The central bank on its own took some measure to discourage that by stopping allocation of Forex to the BDCs and even the floating of the Naira, and now the stopping of outbound transfers for international money operators. Some of these policies, looking at the effect, does it look like they are solving the issue? And if they're not solving the issue, what do you think can solve this issue? People have talked about production, but that's not something that is going to yield an immediate results. What do you think?
Like I said earlier, I said it is the banks that are supposed to be doing this function of Forex. Let me just put it that way. And if there are issues, because I know that there are some policies that have been put in place in the past that is tying the hands of the commercial banks from performing this function effectively. So I think the CBN needs to start looking at those issues. If you say you are liberalizing the market, I see no reason why you should be limiting the commercial bank from doing the functions that they are supposed to do. So all the policies that they have put in place in the past, that they are still putting in place now, that is negating that, I think the central bank needs to be removing those policies so that the commercial banks, can actually perform the function of Forex. They are the one that has the appropriate right to be doing the duty of Forex for people that need it in the country, genuinely need it in the country.
Now, let's look at the issue of repatriated funds. Airlines battling with the issue of repatriated funds, even though the CBN has been tackling that in recent times. But don't you think this will also add pressure to the liquidity issue and then the issue of dollar and all that? Handling this kind of responsibility, the payment of the backlog and all that, and then meeting up the demands for these currencies locally. Don't you think CBN is handling more than what it can chew?
Like you said, I told you, that one of these issues is the Jackpot syndrome, and this idea of us, always wanting to travel abroad and this sort. You see, the money that we are owing the foreign airlines have to be paid. And the way to go about it is what the CBN is doing. All the outstanding billion of dollars that, the CBN have committed themselves to pay, they have to pay it. And I was reading the when I was listening to the CBN governor, he said that imagine there are some people they did not even ask for Forex. Yes, they were given. There were some people what they asked for, what they gave them was more than what they asked for. Those are serious, indictment on the part of the last management of the CBN. But that's, aside. The issue is all the what's it called legitimate money that can be verified has to be paid. And a good example is the airline that you spoke about. Nigerians have flew, they have bought their tickets in Naira, and the government have to provide the money. Because if the government refuse to provide the money, we know it's something that we have to pay. And I remember well, within 2022, the airline, were threatening to boycott Nigeria market. So it is either we say, okay, to hell with you, we can't pay the money now, you suspend it, and let everybody that wants to travel outside the country start moving to either Ghana, Cameroon, or whatever to go and make their flight. That's, one way of going about it. Otherwise, but because those in government themselves need to fly, and they know that it will be better for them to fly from Abuja or to fly from Lagos, they will not want that. Otherwise, if they know they don't want that, then they have to pay the money. But if you can bear the consequence of the international airline, stopping flying Nigeria, and, the consequences of also the money that we will be generating at the airports, if you can, afford not to, not to get those revenue, then we can go ahead and, and say we are not paying the money now. We don't have the what's it called for now, but it is something that we have to pay. It's just that, they might not pay it now. But if we can't do that, well, the government have to pay. And in paying that money, it is, and what the government have to see as, something that they have to do. That's the way I would put it.
Looking at diaspora remittances, money comes into Nigeria from the diaspora, but sometimes it doesn't go through the bank. And at a time, there was the Naira for dollar policy. It's a time to bring back such policies and even increase the incentive.
You see, it's still part of what I'm saying. If you allow the commercial banks to be doing their function the way they're supposed to be doing it, I see no reason why people will prefer, because any other method outside the financial institution is risky. And if you look at the financial space in Nigeria now, fintech are taking up a lot of the financial space in Nigeria. I remember when I did my PhD, it was on looking at the collateral and issue of the cost of finance. And I realized that most most of credits that has collateral always tends, to underperform. So you see, but when you look at what I said then and what is happening now, the fintech are now taking over that space, giving out money to people without asking for any collateral, and at a high interest rate, far higher than what the commercial banks are asking for. And they are taking up that space. It is now the commercial banks are now waking up to realize that if we don't move fast, the financial tech is already taking over their business. So you will see financial banks are now asking people to come and borrow money, that there is a credit facility and all those things, even if it is not your salary account, because the fintech are doing it and they are making a huge money doing that. So I see no reason why the central bank can look at all the policies that they have used to tie the hands and legs of commercial banks in performing their function and reduce those policies so that commercial banks can actually take the space that they have.
All right, let's wrap up the conversation with this. Let's look at the CBN means and ways which the last CBN governor was accused of abuse and misappropriation. Now, what should be the lessons for the present CBN governor, now that we're dealing with the issue of liquidity, which according to reports also accounted for the abuse of the CBN means and ways, accounted for the depletion of the foreign reserve. What should be the lessons, or what should be the narrative now for the new CBN governor, now that we're battling with the issue of liquidity?
You see, when you look at the law of the ways and means, it says that the central bank, who is the last resort, the government bank, can borrow the government up to the tune of 5% of the, is it 5% of the GDP or 5% of the government revenue? I can't remember the exact, but 5%. And that if the government have not retired that loan, the central bank should not borrow government any other money until that is retired. But the last management of central bank put that aside, and they keep borrowing money to, in fact, up to the tune that now they had borrowed more than 30% of the GDP to the government. And when you look at when Buhari was taking over government, the money in circulation, I'm not talking about currency now, I'm talking about the money. It was around 28 trillion. And today, we are now talking about 70-something, like almost 78 trillion. So the money has moved from 28 to 78. So you can see that we are now over liquidified, if there's any word like that. So, but the way forward from there is this. The current management of the CBN should ensure that that's stopped. We should not increase the money supply from the way it is now. That should be the first way forward. Because, what has been supplied cannot be unsupplied. So the best thing is, okay, this damage has been done. How can we rectify it? And the way forward is, the first thing is they should stop it. They should not allow that evil to continue. So they should peg it where it is now and not create any other money supply further than what is already on ground now.